Look at me, take a picture, it'll last longer. The mirror on the wall say I'm getting stronger. Ayo, the mirror don't lie. Ayo, the mirror don't lie. Look at me, take a picture, it'll last longer. The mirror on the wall say I'm getting stronger. Ayo, the mirror don't lie. If you want the truth, don't close your eyes. We got our back against the wall, we gotta fight back. I need a theme song, this the right track. I ain't got no cape or no superpowers, just confidence and self-esteem, the world is ours. I believed in me when nobody didn't. This ain't no freestyle, just some facts that's written. Come on, let's hear it for the boy. He bringing pain at the same time, joy. I bob and weave through the crowd, so untouchable. At first they hate, then they loving you. It's a crazy cycle, but I'm going through it. I wish I was lying, that's why I show and prove it. I'm destined to be one of the best to do it. I ain't saying I'm the GOAT, but I'm closer to it. I should get a statue in the front yard. Man, I'm shooting up my stats like a shooting guard. Look at me, take a picture, it'll last longer. The mirror on the wall say I'm getting stronger. Ayo, the mirror don't lie. Ayo, the mirror don't lie. Look at me, take a picture, it'll last longer. The mirror on the wall say I'm getting stronger. Ayo, the mirror don't lie. If you want the truth, don't close your eyes. I'll give it to you in 3D or even play by play. I'm your guest announcer, are you here today? Yo, let me get a show of hands if you rockin' with me. Ain't no stopping us now, we bout to bounce quickly. I'm about to start a movement, put your fist up. Everything all black from the wrist up, yeah. Leather gloves, no prints, what? We about to dip, deep cut, yeah. Now bring it back like a boomerang. Who that man, do that thing, coming through like Buddha Bang. Setting booby traps for girls and goofy cats. Hog tied and handcuffed through in the back. Zip locked and sealed up and tossed away. I don't know about your future, but it's bad today. I'm a prophet and a guru and the rap police. You in the belly of the beats, masterpiece. Look at me, take a picture, it'll last longer. The mirror on the wall say I'm getting stronger. Ayo, the mirror don't lie. Ayo, the mirror don't lie. Look at me, take a picture, it'll last longer. The mirror on the wall say I'm getting stronger. Ayo, the mirror don't lie. If you want the truth, don't close your eyes.
I feel like I'm afraid to say how I feel, to know I let you down. These late nights turn to days, don't wanna let you down. With each breath we give away, it'll never be the same. I'm chasing somebody who won't ever ease the pain, but I don't want half of your heart, heart, heart. You can have it back if it's only half of your heart. If it's only half of your heart. Hello, where's my kiss at? Hold up, it's been a day, where have you been? Chillin' with some friends on the west end. She said I saw you in a story with that one chick. You know the one you got drunk with. When we started dating, you were being reckless. Look, babe, it's not what you think. She pulls away and pours another drink. Yeah, yeah. Gotta find my way to you, even though you're next to me. No matter what I do, your heart is drifting out of reach. Head underwater, I'm swimming harder, trying to keep this alive. Gotta find my way to you, now that our love has capsized. Hello, where's my kiss at? Hold up, it's been a day, where have you been? Chillin' with some friends on the west end. She said I saw you in a story with that one chick. You know the one you got drunk with. When we started dating, you were being reckless. Look, babe, it's not what you think. She pulls away and pours another drink. Yeah, yeah. Gotta find my way to you, even though you're next to me. No matter what I do, your heart is drifting out of reach. Head underwater, I'm swimming harder, trying to keep this alive. Gotta find my way to you, now that our love has capsized. Find my way to you, even though you're next to me. No matter what I do, your heart is drifting out of reach. Head underwater, I'm swimming harder, trying to keep this alive. Gotta find my way to you, now that our love has capsized. Capsized.
Welcome to the live stream. Let me just put the music on. Welcome everybody. Welcome to a system build number 25. This is a build with a graphic card, so we got a lot of parts to go through today, so let's get to it. Let me go over to the overhead and hopefully not hurt myself. There we go. Okay. All right. Sorry about this glare, guys. It's a little bit annoying. There we go. Okay, so let's start with parts first. This is the power supply. It's a Corsair CX550. A RAM, we've got Corsair Vengeance, 16 gigabytes total. This is PC 3600 megahertz memory. It's DDR4 still, but still not bad, still viable. Graphic card, we're doing a NVIDIA RTX 3050. There goes my cabling off the back of the desk. That's all right. So NVIDIA, it's a 3050. It's a 6 gigabytes of video graphic memory. It is the OC edition, so it is a little overclocked. That's fine. Factory overclocked. Motherboard, we're doing a Gigabyte H610M S2H version 2 DDR4. Hard drive, we're doing a 500 gigabytes NVMe drive. It is a P3 Plus drive, so it's a little faster. It's 4,700 megabytes per second, and that's megabytes per second. That's pretty quick. And we have a hard drive, not having a hard drive, but a processor. Intel Core i3, it's a 13th gen 100F, so it's a little bit newer processor. It also requires a discrete graphic card, which is what we got here. This does not have any onboard graphics, so therefore it is fully reliant on the graphic card itself to boot. So we will need that, but the requirements are made, so we should be okay. Case that we're using, we are using a Fractal Design Core 1100. And that is kind of the case what we had yesterday, so it's kind of the same in the aspect of the case. Motherboard is the same as yesterday, RAM is different, and everything else is different at this point. So let's get into it. Let me just rearrange things a little bit so I have room. Let's get the power supply out of here for right now. I do need the RAM. I do need this, and we're going to need that. Also, what you're going to need for tools, let me just go over tools really fast. You need a flash drive for obviously loading up the operating system as well as drivers, which I already have it preloaded. You're going to need a screwdriver, a knife, small screwdrivers, and a pair of cutters. I've been not watching chat, sorry. Live stream day 2 of 3. Yes, this is 2 of 3. We are having another live stream on Saturday. That is going to be May the 4th. So it's going to be a little bit Star Wars themed. So please feel free to join in the festivities. So let's move on. Let's start with open up the board. In the board, in the box, you've got SATA cables. We're not going to be using these, but if you have a SATA hard drive, keep them. You'll need them for that. Motherboard itself. Below the motherboard, you'll have the I/O shield, which we will, the dreaded I/O shield. Get that out of here. Yeah, it was slightly blurry a second ago. Sorry, I'm trying to keep it as clean as possible. I hate that that manual focus. Sorry, guys. If it does become blurry, do let me know, though. It's fine. Now, we're going to build on top of the box, so we're just going to close the box. Everything else, the manual, we really don't need the manual, so we'll be all right. But if you do need the manual is in there, and you can use it. Let me move this a little bit further this way. Sorry about that. There we go. I think it's a little, yeah, it's a little better. All right, so motherboard. Let's get it out of the bag. The bag is anti-static, but it's anti-static inside the bag, not on the outside of the bag, so do not build on top of the bag. Build on top of the box. Take the bag, just toss it, put it aside. All right. Can we see this clearly? Yeah, it looks pretty clear. Okay. So to go over a few main items of the board, you have your processor socket here, RAM goes here, hard drive goes there, graphic card's going to go here in this socket, and your front panel connectors are located down here, CPU connection, USB, and your front audio. I'm going to show the front panel connectors because it's kind of hard to see. Also, USB 3.0 is on this side of the board. If you have SATA connections, they would go here, power connection, as well as power connection up here for the board. Now there's also CPU fan. There's a CPU fan which is over here, which is the gray one. All the black ones are system fans. These are the two system fans, one here and one in the upper corner, just in case you have one in the back of the computer. So let's zoom in on the front panel connectors really quickly, just to go over it. As you can see on the front panel connectors, everything's labeled on the board, and it shows HDD, hard drive, which is reset, power switch, and power LED. Those are the ones you're going to be using. All the rest on this side are pretty much not used. We're not connecting the speaker or anything like that. Your system fan is obviously the one that's right here. We're going to use this one because it's in the front of the case. USB is right here. You have your USB 2.0. You have two different ones for that. TPM, it's already got TPM built in, so we don't really need this. This is if you have LED_C is for like if you have LED lights. We're not doing that. It's a business computer, but it's nice to have the header just in case you want to do that. Communication port, this is your COM port. If you have a serial port, you'll be connecting it here. And your front panel audio is located all the way to the left. That's going to be for your front of your case. Most people don't use the front panel audio. It's pretty kind of crappy, so I mean, it's all right. It's just not that great. So anything else on this board that needs to be checked out? Oh yeah, hard drive is right here, processor, RAM, and graphic card's going to go in last right there. I'm just going to open up the little latches, by the way. You should open up all these latches so that you can install everything that you need to install. Let's bring it back down. And let's go. Okay, so let's start with the processor first. We're going to open up the processor by lifting up the handle, opening up the cover. There is a plastic cover, but that's going to pop off when we go to put this back down. Be careful, do not touch any of these pins. The pins are on the motherboard. This is an LGA socket, so everything is on the motherboard. It's not on the processor. The processor has pads. The pads are a little bit more resilient, so you don't want to get any dust or dirt in this area here. Let's take the processor out. Inside the box for the processor is manual. The box itself, which we're not going to need. Put that off to the side there. Inside the box, we have the processor itself in a little clamshell. As you can tell, that's the bottom of the processor. Those are the pads. Top of the processor. On the top of the processor, you'll also notice there is an arrow. That arrow is important. That's indicated right here by my thumb here. That arrow, it has to match the arrow that is on the socket. You're going to put it the same direction. Also, what's in the box is that you also have a heatsink and fan with pre-applied thermal paste. We're going to put this off to the side because we have to put the processor in first before we put that on top. Next, down to the board, you're going to notice the board has a little arrow here. That means that this arrow should line up with the arrow that's on the processor, and that's the way it's going to go into the socket. So I'm going to lift that back up. If I can get it out of the box. Be careful not to touch the pads. You want to touch the sides of the processor like this so that you don't end up putting your fingerprints all over the pads. Align the arrow again to the bottom left and bottom left, and you're going to gently put it into the socket, let it drop. Should sit all the way in the socket. Now you'll also see that there's little, I guess, grooves on the side of the processor that should fit exactly where the processor should sit in place. It shouldn't really move or wiggle around. So now we're going to put this down, close this down. This is going to pop off. Remove that, and you're going to bring the lever down and put it underneath and latch it in place. Now the processor is ready for the heatsink and fan. So we're going to take the heatsink and fan out. after I get the little cable off. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to line up the feet of all of this heatsink and fan to these circles that are here. There's little holes. We're going to put those in that circle. So we're just going to line it up and drop it in place. Actually, this one's rotated, so I want the cable closer to where the fan is, fan connector is. So just lay it down, and then you're going to push down till you hear a click. Do opposite side corners. Do not do two sides at once. You want to do one, 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 then one. That'll make it a little bit easier, make it a little more level. It'll also scrunch down correctly, and you won't end up breaking the IHS. Connect in the CPU fan. It's the one that's labeled CPU fan. It's a 4-pin and it only goes one direction, so it should be able to plug straight in. If you're putting in and it's not going in correctly, then flip it over because you got it the wrong way. Let's do RAM next. RAM, we're doing 2 8s, 16 gigabytes at 3600 megahertz per second. This RAM is the same as what we did yesterday. Open this up. Now with Corsair memory, there's a little different. This is not G.Skill. So G.Skill didn't have these little plastic covers. The plastic covers over the logo. It drives me nuts because it's hard to get off. And you got to use your finger to kind of push the plastic off. Once it's off, you want to make sure those are off because this is a hot device and you don't want plastic melting on the inside of your case, so be sure to take that little piece of plastic off. Little sticker. DDR4 memory, as well as any other memory, has a notch in the middle. Just make sure that this notch lines up with the notch on the board, and you'll want to push it down. It should click in place. Make sure again that you have these open. These should be open before you start, and you want to basically put this lined up. Hopefully I got it the right way. Nope, do not. It's the other way. Get it in place, then you should be able to slide it down. It should click. If it doesn't click, give it a little extra push or double check to make sure that you have the notch first is the right direction before you push all the way down. Again, repeat the same process for the second stick. If your motherboard has 4 RAM sockets, make sure that you are looking for the ones that are matched that will give you dual channel mode. You want dual channel mode for that, so make sure that you're in dual channel mode for the motherboard. Click it in place, again, repeat the same steps. This we only have 2, so there's really no way to mess this up, which is good for me. Once this is in place, you want to just tuck this cable kind of out of the way. Just get it between the fan here just so it doesn't bother me. There we go. All right, we're in place. Now, the next step, you want to put the hard drive in. So we're going to put the NVMe drive, which is this right here. Looks like pretty much the size of a piece of gum. Gum stick, whatever. Stick of gum? Stick of gum. Do they even sell sticks of gum anymore? Anybody in chat know? Probably, they probably do. Or is it all like those little like pellets of gum now? I don't even know. So anyway, crucial. It's a size of a stick of gum of an old piece of stick of gum. It does come with a screw. That screw, just be careful, do not drop it into the case like I have it right now, hovering over this. This is not a good idea. Put that over there. We're not going to use the screw because this motherboard already has a piece of plastic that will hold it down. So we're going to pull that piece of plastic out so it reveals the standoff, which it is there. We're going to take the NVMe drive, we're going to put it with the connector side to the connectors, and you're going to put it on a 45-degree angle in. It's going to slide in, and then you want to slide it down. And then you want to put the little plastic stub in the hole there to hold it in place. It should click in, and now the board, now it won't come back up. Now it should be a little off the board. This is normal. There should be a little bit of space in between here, which is kind of hard to see on camera, but there is some space between here and the board. This is further up from the board. That's to allow for heat dissipation as well as just, that's the way they mount it. So what else do we have on this? That's it for this. So we're about to put this in the case. Let's take the plastic pieces out of here. Let's just rearrange things a little bit. Let's get the garbage out of here. All right. We're going to keep the I/O shield over here so I remember it. Also, if you want to sell your motherboard later, or if you have to take your motherboard in for RMA or return, this is really necessary to keep because you want to take your processor out and then put this back in place to cover it up. This is just the processor, you know, the CPU cover. It's fine if you throw it out, but if you ever have to do warranty, you may have a hard time getting that warranted if you don't put that in place before you reship it. So our customers are not going to use that. They'll come to us for RMA, and we usually have a lot of these sitting around, so we don't need to give that to them. It'll just confuse them. We're going to put this off to the side. We're going to get the case. Okay. Oh. Case we're using is a Fractal 1100 core. Yeah, core 1100, the other way around. Just gotta take the screws off. Sorry guys, you won't be able to see much with this because it's obviously standing upwards. We're gonna bring it down. Another thing you may want to have is a metal tray or a screw tray or a parts tray. You could also use like a empty box or something if you don't want to have to invest in that. Just so you don't do what I just did, which is drop the screw and probably lose it. Yeah, that's just everywhere. Okay. Knife. All right. Sides, you're going to take the sides off the case. You're going to take those sides and put them somewhere so they won't fall. You could also put it back in the box that it came with. That's an option if you don't want to have to worry about it falling or scratching. All right, so inside the case, we don't need that. Okay. Inside the case, you have this metal piece here. We're going to take this piece out. This basically holds your 2.5 and 3.5 inch hard drives. We are not utilizing any of those. We're going to just take it out so we can build a little bit better and faster and you can see everything. And it makes it a little easier to put it in with if this is out of the way for the graphic card. So what else do you have to know about this? Motherboard goes here. Power supply goes up top over here. That's hard to see. Up top over here. And graphic card will be going in these first two slots. Probably we'll line it up once we get the motherboard in place. Right now what we want to do is we want to take this out. So we're going to just unscrew, untie this. Do not use these metal things. These are horrible. Metal ties, just toss them. Use the plastic ones. Let's open this knife. Now it comes with a little, what we call the screw box. It comes with all the screws that are designed for the system. So we're going to open that. And we're just going to take out the screws. It does come with some cable ties. I don't like these. These are too small. Okay. In the screw bag, you're going to have a bunch of screws. How original, I know. So inside here, let me just grab these. Okay. A few things. You're going to have motherboard standoffs, which are going to look like this. Motherboard standoffs are little gold ones, and it basically is like a little nut with a screw there on one end. That gets screwed down to the bottom of the case for the motherboard to stand on, which is hence the standoff. So we're going to use those. It also comes with this stupid thing, this little metal piece for a lock for the back slide cover. Don't put that in. Just leave that out. I have hurt my finger on this so many times. I've sliced my finger open because this thing is really sharp and it ends up right by where you have to unscrew the case cover, and no one uses this. if you're using this, you're probably in a more secure facility and you probably don't need this. You probably need something a little more like a Kensington lock or something like that. So anyway, moving on, screws. So just leave that off. That's the main thing. Put the screws in the thing here. All right, screws that you're going to use. There's a few different ones. You're going to use this one for the motherboard itself. They're a little thicker than the other few, and it is still a Phillips with a round head. There's no, it's not a nut driver, it's just straight Phillips only. So that's the one for the motherboard. Another few screws. If you have a mechanical hard drive, you're going to use these. These are a little longer. They go through the grommets that are over here. When you go through these plastic grommets or little rubber pads, they silence your drive a little more, and you would be able to attach your 3.5-inch drive to that. So if you have a spinning rust, what we call spinning rust or a spinning hard drive, you will use those instead. We are not going to use those because we don't have any, but just in case you have some. There's also another screw that is very important. If you have a CD-ROM or if you have a 2.5-inch drive, like a little mini SSD drive, they use these little screws that are a little thinner than the ones from the motherboard. They're also very small. And they are used over here, not in the grommets, but in the 2.5-inch markers. All right, let's work on the motherboard. So we're going to go back to the bottom of the case here. Let's get this out first. I forgot to get this out. Let me also cut this really quick. Get that off of here. Just going to take this out really quick. 3 screws, just 2 on top, 1 on bottom. We're going to put it back when we're done, but for now, I don't want to have it in my way, so we're just going to move it out. 1 screw at the bottom, which is just on the bottom of the case, and then it just slides to the left, and it comes right out. So I'm going to take that, put that off to the side. Do not lose it, just we're going to put it back in place later. And then if you notice, that opens up a lot more room here, so we can actually put all of the fun stuff into the case. Leaves room for activities. Okay, so we're going to work on the power supply first. Let me bring this down a little bit. There we go. So on the power supply is going to go up in the upper left corner here. This is basically, I'm doing this first. Usually I actually do this usually last, but in the aspect of this case, it's a little bit tight, so we're gonna have to do the power supply first if we don't wanna have to worry about damaging the motherboard or anything like that. So we're gonna take the power supply out. If I get it off the floor, here we go. All right, let me open up the box. Again, always cut away from yourself. Take this out. In the box for the power supply, you're going to have a few items. You're going to have screws that are specifically for the power supply. It says 4 PSU, which is power supply unit. That's exactly what we're going to use it for. The manual, if you really care. We don't. All right. Power cord, which is obviously something that we're going to use at the last step. Some silicone packet. Don't eat that. That's it pretty much, except for the power supply itself, which I have to unwrap. This power supply is not modular, so everything is connected to the power supply itself. A little bit of word of warning here on most of these power supplies, especially if you're putting your graphic card in, you're going to want to look at the label. The label is going to say max power, and it's going to say 12 volt plus is what you want to look at, and it says 528 watts. And that means that this is still rated at a 550 watt, but it only has ability of giving out 528 watts on the 12 volt rail. So if you have a graphic card that requires more than 528 watts plus your CPU, you will need a bigger power supply than this one. So Just a little bit of warning, that's the number you really should be looking at, but this is more than enough for this CPU, more than enough for the GPU that's in this. But if you ever have any questions about that, you can always go higher on the power supply, spend a few bucks more, and not have to worry about it at all. And that might be your better choice in the long run. So installing, you're going to take the fan portion, and you're going to have the fan facing down, so the label's facing up. And you're going to have that put into the upper corner over here. And let me take the thing off a little bit. Here we go. In the upper corner, and you're going to put the screws in from the back of the case. It's only 4 screws. It only goes one way, so you should be able to screw it all in with no problem. Now, if you put this upside down where the fan is facing the other way, the label would be the wrong way, and therefore you'll know you've got it the wrong way. You want to flip it over. If you have a case that has its own separate compartment for the power supply, I would recommend that you use that and double check to make sure which way the fan orientation goes. Sometimes there's a filtered fan at the bottom or something like that at the bottom of the case. If that's the case, then use the filtered area where it's supposed to go. Oops, this one. All right, a little loose. There we go. If you're doing this for the first time, you might want to stand the case up when you go to do this. It's actually a little easier than fighting gravity, which I'm doing right now. But if I put it upwards, you guys won't be able to see anything. After I got it in, you just tighten everything down. It's just like furniture. You want to tighten things down once everything is put in place. All right, next is the I/O shield, which I'm not going to forget. So no one's been helping me out in chat, by the way. You guys should like scream out by now when I'm supposed to be putting the I/O shield in at this point, because I always forget this stupid thing when I'm actually not on stream. Actually, I think I forgot once or twice on stream. So make sure that you always remind me. Make sure to remind yourself. You need this I/O shield. So on the I/O shield, just to give you a quick look at it, it's going to be labeled. You're going to have mouse, keyboard, video, display port, HDMI, USB ports, networking, and some more USB ports. This is pretty sharp, so just be careful how you handle this, just lightly. If you want, you can handle it with gloves. This portion is going to go towards the outside of the case. So when you go to put it in, it's only going to go in one spot, which is this rectangle down here. And you're going to push on the I/O shield and push it in place. It should just pop in with almost no problem. Go. Once that's in place, you're going to now put down the motherboard standoffs, which is this metal piece here. That's going to go down to the board, and it's going to go into these holes. It's going to screw into these holes here, this, and that. It will be matching whatever is on your motherboard. So you may want to bring your motherboard over and take a quick look at where the holes line up. You want to take a quick count of how many holes that are going to be matching down here as what it should be matching up here. You're going to have to keep track to make sure that you have the exact same numbers. So if you have 6 that are lined up, you're going to definitely put in 6 down at the bottom. To screw these in, you can put them in by hand, or you can use a nut driver. I have an iFixit nut driver, but you can use almost any nut driver you want. And that also allows you to put these down with using a tool. I'm going to still put them in with the tool anyway, just to tighten them in, but that would allow you to screw that in a little bit tighter. And that's going to allow me to do that. I'm going to just do that really quick. Do an extra few turns. Go down, back down to there. I'm just matching the ones that match the motherboard. I already know which ones they are, so, but if you're not sure, count them up. Make sure to count the same amount of screws that you're putting in. You do not want to put an extra one down here that does not have a screw going through it. You will end up grounding your motherboard, and you will have a very bad day. So try not to do that. or it may actually ground the motherboard, but may actually cause certain devices not to work, which will leave me more of a question on how, which part is broken, and it's just a stupid screw that's underneath there that shouldn't be, or a standoff that shouldn't be. You do not want to shock your board or anything like that, so just be very careful. If you counted the wrong amount and you counted the wrong amount putting down, take the board back out and recount. Check the standoffs, see which one you might have missed, or maybe one that doesn't belong, and take it back out. Now, if you don't have a nut driver like this, you could use anything. You could use a pair of pliers. Just be careful not to scratch the board, the backboard piece. And that's about it. Screw this down. All right, we're ready for the motherboard. There should be 6 in total. Yes. And then there should be 6 in total that I'm screwing down today. Now, to put this in, I'm going to turn and put the board at a little more of an angle towards the I/O shield, so it slips under the I/O shield and in. You want to check the back of the I/O shield and make sure that everything lines up and that nothing is stuck. Give it a little bit of a push, so it should click in place. And now you're going to put the first screw down for the motherboard, which is the screws that I showed you before. They're a little thicker and still very small. If this is your first build, I would recommend that you use a regular screwdriver. Don't use an electric one, because you don't want to strip any screws. It's easier not to strip a screw by using a regular screwdriver. I'm just using an electric screwdriver because I build too many of these and my hands don't work as well as they should. So this works a little easier for me. Repeat this step all the way through for every standoff. Make sure to count them off, and you should have exactly the same amount of standoffs as you have screws down. Of course, I dropped one. All right. Oh, wait. And we should have one more, I think. Yeah, one more. Bottom left. Okay, now that that's all in place, I'm going to do the I/O next. Not the I/O, I'm sorry, the front panel, which is located down here. And do all the front panel connectors as well as the fan, and plug that in as well. So we're just going to do that quickly. Take this off. Okay. I'm going to organize your cables out. I usually go by thick by thin, so just basically all the thick cables pull to one side, all the thinner cables pull to the other side, so at least, because that's where they kind of go on the board. They kind of separate a little, so I just like to try to separate them as much as I can before I bring them down. It'll be the little cables like this. I'm going to show you what they say on them. They should be all labeled, and the labels are going to basically correspond to what you're going to be plugging into on the board. So you have one that says power SW, which is power switch, HDD LED, which is the power LED, the hard drive LED, I'm sorry, and then you have power LED, which is positive, negative, and the other one that's a switch does not require positive, negative. If you are doing LEDs, you're going to have to make sure that positive and negative do line up. If they don't, you're not going to end up being able to have them work, so make sure that you have them the right way. If not, if they're not on, just reverse it. You probably have it the wrong way on the board. So I'm just going to do HDD LED first. Put that down to the corner where it is. That is labeled on the board. We don't have a reset switch. If you have a reset switch, you can also wire that up. That's this step. Positive, negative. I'm going to do the power LED. And then the power switch. And on, power switch. Okay, once that's all in place, you're going to now do USB. You're going to load up the, you're going to take the USB 2.0 header, the HD audio header, and the USB 3.0 header, and connect it to the board. The USB 3.0 header happens to be over here, more towards where the SATA connections are, and the others are down further on the board. Let's do 3.0 and get that out of the way. 3.0 has a notch, which will allow it to only go in one direction. Shouldn't have to force it. It should just slide right in place and do a little click. Sometimes, no click this time, but it is there. HDD, okay, so that's that. USB. Yeah, everything with the USB connection and the audio connections have a little block out, so it only goes one way. If you're forcing it, then you got it the wrong way, flip it over, and then realign the pins and plug it in. Same thing for the audio. There's a block out that only goes one way. Plug it in. Then you're all set with that. Everything's plugged in down below. I'm going to do a little bit of cable management now because we have to do a graphic card, so I always recommend that you do the cable management a little bit ahead of time. Let's also get the, oh, you know what, let's get the fan connected, which I totally forgot to say that. Let's get the fan. Let's do the fan first. If I can get this untwisted. Come on. All right, there we go. Stretch out the plastic here. There we go. Plug it into the one that says System Fan. It is labeled System Fan 2 because it's lower on the board. It's fine. Now what we're going to do is we're going to wire and like tie up all these wires, these loose wires, and get them kind of more in a better position. Did it come with wire ties? Wow, this power supply did not come with wire ties. How cheap. Okay, Corsair, really? Thought you guys come with power. Or maybe I dropped it. Did I drop it, guys? Probably. All right. Well, we have other wire ties, so we'll just use those. Grab them. More wire ties. They're white. They're not black, but it really doesn't matter. It doesn't have a side panel that you can see, so it's just for us. Actually, I prefer the white ones anyway, because the white against black makes it easier to clip. If you have to clip something, you can easily clip it without clipping on the wires. So there is, I guess, some sort of benefit. I'm going to push all these wires up together, and I'm going to tie them into a little loop so they all go down this way. They're all going to slide underneath the case when I'm done. So let's get this going. I say underneath, but on the bottom of the case is where it's going, not underneath. The bottom of the case. Get the wires all tightened down. Okay. That's just follow all the way along. You want to get all the wires nice and tight together so they're easy to maneuver and get them out of the way of like any type of fan or graphic card or anything else that might get in the way. Plus, if you want to do something where like clean out your system, you're not going to have a hard time doing that when all the cables are all tied down, because at least this way it makes it easier to get the dust off. You can also see the dust easier. Also, the dust doesn't cling to more things because you have less room for air to move between it. So you get a little less dust bunnies. All right. After you've got everything tied, you want to go back and clip the tails. You don't want the tails, don't leave the plastic tails on because they could get into a fan. That's why you cut them. Again, be careful of your fingers, cables, and all that stuff. Just throw this there. All right. Now what I want to do is I'm going to flip this back over, flip this down, push it behind this fan here. So now that it's behind this fan, it's down and out of the way. I'm going to push this back a little bit more just to keep it down. It should stay down. There we go. Now that that's down and out of the way, when we go to put the graphic card, when we go to put the graphic card in place, which is going to go right here, it'll avoid all the fan, like the cables against the fan and stuff like that. So we're going to take the graphic card out. We're going to put that in. Take it out of the case. Oop. Again, cut away from yourself, not towards yourself, which is what I'm doing, which is the bad thing to do. Okay, this graphic card is a NVIDIA RTX 3050. It is a 6 gig graphic card. This is good for graphical work on, like Photoshop and stuff like that. It's decent for that. It's decent for a lot of things. Maybe even a little bit of light video editing with no problem. Maybe 1080p video editing. I wouldn't go probably over that. And maybe some light gaming. I think the 3050 is okay for gaming. It's not going to get you like 4K gaming. It's going to get you probably like 1080p gaming. But that's, most people are probably still in 1080p anyway. So graphic card you just pull out. It's the same, thing that's, just get it out of the packaging first. It's a really small card. This is an MSI. It comes with a plastic cover to protect the PCI Express socket that's going to come off, as well as the back of the card, which has two HDMIs and 1 DisplayPort. So we're going to take all of that out for now. I usually keep these on the side, just in case the customer is not using one of these. I will plug it back up just so we don't get more dust in the system. It does help with that. This also comes off. Just be careful not to touch the actual PCI Express socket. You really shouldn't be messing with that too much. You don't want to scratch it. So just take that off. Now what you're going to do is you're going to line this up to figure out which back plates you have to take out, which in this case are going to be the first two. So I'm going to put this off to the side over here carefully. And I'm going to unscrew the first two. Keep the screws. You're going to need those to put that back in. You're going to take the empty sockets or covers off. You take those out. Put those off to the side if you want to keep them. If you're going to take the graphic card out at some time, you may want to keep those just in case. So to put a graphic card in, it's pretty simple. You're going to line up with this socket here. So you're going to open up the end, which I already have. This is the plastic piece. It clips in like that. So we're going to make sure it's open, which is pushed back, before you put the graphic card in. It'll make it a lot easier and you won't break anything. So let's get it lined up into the socket and make sure to line it up properly. There we go. This is hard to do without actually seeing it. There we go. After that's lined up, you're going to give it a little push down. Should click in place. This little safety bracket's going to click over and it's going to hold the card in place. It's not going to allow you to pull it back out. Now, if you need to pull the graphic card back out, you need to push this down first before pulling the graphic card back out. So just a reminder, if you do need to take it out for any reason, that should be done beforehand. So, all right, now we're going to just line this back up here, make sure it's pushed in, put the screws back into the back panel here. Be sure to put both, 2 screws, since it's a 2-card slot. Now this card is not that long, so you see that it's a very short card. There should be really no problem with what they call GPU sag. If you have a very long card that's a little heavier, you may want to get an anti-sag bracket that's going to basically pull the card up and out of the way so it doesn't keep bending. You don't want this card to bend too much. This is not going to bend at all because it's a really small card. There's even no power required for this card, which is interesting. I thought there was a 3 or 6 pin connection for that, but there is no need for this one. So that must not consume a lot of power. All right. What we're going to do next is we're going to connect up all the power connections. So let's get the power supply cables down. So we're going to cut it out of the bundle. The bundle. Okay. Let's bring that down a little. So, in the bundle of cables, you're going to have a bunch of different connections here. Some of them we're going to use today, some of them we are not going to use. So, let's go over them really quick. Start with untangling them. There we go. This is starting with the 24-pin connector. It is the biggest one. It has the most amount of pins. It is going to plug into the motherboard down here on this section there. I'm not going to plug it in right now. We're going to move on, and then we'll come back to that shortly. The next one, which we're not using today again, is the PCI Express or PCIe. That's a little better. PCIe connection. It is usually a 6 or an 8-pin. These do push together to become an 8-pin. If your graphic card requires that, you can push this all the way together like that and then plug it in. We are not using this today because it doesn't require it on this graphic card, but if it does, you have another one on this side, and it's also labeled PCIe. And again, 6 or 8-pin. So either one is an option, depending upon what your graphic card has. That's just as easy as just looking at the other side connector and seeing what you have to plug into it. Moving on, this is a SATA connection. So you'll see that it has a SATA connector and it has a little plastic piece here on this side. That notch would go to the notch that you're plugging into on your device. Most of the time this is used for hard drives or extra lighting. That could be used for that, but you'll just line up the connection and plug it straight in. Most importantly, just be careful of the notch and making sure the notch is lined up before you plug it in. Most of the time it'd be flipped over this way, the notch would be usually downwards if you're holding the device straight onto it. Next, an older connector, but still good. It is a Molex connector, 4-pin Molex connector. Some devices still use these. Most of the time it's usually lights or pumps or something like that will require that. If you have a CD-ROM or a really old hard drive, maybe it might also require that connection. Most of the time you'll see them usually use the new SATA connections because they're a little bit better, more efficient too. Moving on. There's another PCI Express one. Just put that out of the way. There's 2, that's fine. CPU. This one goes down to the motherboard and the 8-pin socket. Make sure that you be careful that you don't mix this one up with the one that says PCI Express. Make sure that you put the CPU one onto the motherboard and the other one that goes to a graphic card, if you have one that requires a graphic card. So do not mess this up, because if you mess this up, you will probably screw up your motherboard. So you might shock out your motherboard. It depends on the amount of protection your board has. So be careful, make sure it's on the right one, because it's a different amount of power requirements. Now I'm going to untangle this really quickly, and then we're going to plug everything in. Let me get this other one out of the way. Okay, so CPU, we're going to plug that one into the upper portion of the motherboard over here, upper left. So I'm just going to plug that straight in. Oh, someone wrote something. Okay. I'm going to mess up the name. I'm sorry. I don't know what that is. So I'm going to say B. I assume there isn't a Twitch simulcast. Do you have a Discord where people can hive brain on builds? Oh, okay. Combine like, okay, yeah. Melissa, thanks for answering that. We don't have a live Discord right now. We're working on setting it up. We do have an account. It's not done yet, so I apologize about that. But we will have that. Also, we are live on Twitter. You know, we are not live on Twitter. I'm sorry. We also do check Twitter very often if you need to like put something there. But yeah, you're right. I think we should probably set up the Discord. There's some, you know what? One of my mods, if you guys can send me an email and let me know, like, to remind me to set up the Discord, I'll do it this week. I keep forgetting to do it. It's just my mind has been everywhere. Rasim, oh man, I'm gonna get these names so mad. I'm like, my own name is horrible, so I totally get it. Rasim Saeed. Saeed? Oh, what's up? Yeah, what's up, man? Is a GTX 1060 Ti and a i5 13400F good for a first PC build? Yes, a 1660 Ti is still actually an okay graphic card. A lot of games still work with that. If you're worrying about games, if you're just worrying about just doing, like, let's say just regular work, you can still get away with that. Oh, thanks, Melissa, for putting it in my calendar. Yeah, I'll definitely handle that. The 13400F is a great processor. What is that, brand new? Yeah, 13th gen. So that's brand new. 1660 Ti, yeah, probably the graphic card would be the next thing I'd upgrade in that system. And maybe your power supply, just to be sure that you can get something that, you know, works with the new graphic card. But yeah, it's still a viable system. 1660 Ti is still viable, yeah. Thanks, Priscilla, for reminding people to like it. Thanks. Hopefully you guys do like the stream. Let's move on. Where did I leave off on? Power supply. Okay, so I'm plugging in the rest of power. So we got 24 pin, and we're going to plug the 24 pin down to here on the board. Again, it has a little ridge or a little shelf here where this little clip will clip right into it. So we're just going to clip that in. When you push these down, you should hear a click sound, and then you know what's in. Everything else we're not really using today, which is kind of shocking because I thought this graphic card used a PCIe connector, which is kind of easier for me for the build, but I really wanted to show you guys how to plug one in. We have another build that we did do a full graphic card that was a little bit higher end. That did require that. So if you guys really are interested in that, you can go back to one of our live builds that have that. I'm not sure which one it is. It probably says GPU builds on it. Usually I label it that way. So we're going to tie up the rest of this stuff. You can also move this cabling up and out and into the CD-ROM area where we're not going to use that area anyway. It's just a nice area to store cables. So we're just going to jam that stuff back there. All right, so we're just going to tie some of this up because I really can't stand a mess. Again, guys, the cable management is up to you. You don't have to go crazy with cable management, you know. If you don't want to tie everything up, you don't have to. It's not required. It's just nicer. Very cool. I've got a big tower with a decent power supply, fans, and CPU cooler. I've got a few terabytes of hard drive sitting around, so I'm inheriting a slightly dated and GPU. Okay, awesome. Yeah, you know, you work with what you got, man. I mean, that's still not a bad system. And, you know, the bigger the case, you know, the more you got room to play, you know, you got more stuff to put in there. So I would say, yeah, go for it. You know, and if later you get some more cash and you want to, like, find a better graphic card, throw it in. You know, it's not, you know, that's the best part about PCs. At least you can upgrade it pretty easily without having to change everything. So, yeah, yeah, exactly. Replace motherboard and CPU and upgrade GPU later. Yeah, exactly. What kind of case do you have? You said it's very large. I don't know if maybe I might know it if you give me the model number, so we all can be sharing in the basket of your glory here. But motherboard and CPU are all potatoes. Yeah, as long as it's not a pocket calculator, you're fine. Let's get that in there. All right, it's kind of tied down. I'm really not very happy with that, but it's good enough. Oh, this is still touching the graphic. Oh, you're not seeing this. All right, so down here I got a little problem with the wires. Some of these wires are a little bit too close to the graphic card, so I'm going to probably push that down or crimp it down. Just, you know what? Maybe if I put, yeah, I'm going to tie one more tie down there. One more tie. Everybody knows. One more tie. Brian's one more tie down. What is he doing? He's just tying one more down. All right. There we go. I just don't like how the little wires are actually a little too close to the fan. So, just going to give it a little extra pull. Push that around that way. Push that down. Sorry, that's a little off camera, guys. I apologize about that. There we go. Now it's all tied down and away from the fan, so it's not close enough. Make sure the fan moves. Yes, it does. No issues. All right, now we're up to booting. Yay. So, okay. Oh man, this chat's going quick. It's huge, but motherboard and CPU are open to Supermicro. Supermicro, okay. Usually there's server cases. They make a desktop case? All right. Supermicro 732-9, 900 watt power supply, 80 plus gold, nice. Zip ties are my love language. Yeah, man. You got me on that one. You got me at zip ties. You had me at zip ties. All right. Let me put this over here. I'm going to arrange this so we can boot it and show you guys how to load Windows. I never put the case covers on. This is just a typical me thing. I don't know if a lot of other people have that same like superstition that we don't close the case until the system boots up first. It's just a rule. So we don't do that. But we're going to lift it up, turn it, and let me get switched over to the other screen in a second. Oh. Here, let me leave that for a second. Bear with me for 1 second, guys. Let me plug everything in. Only thing I'm doing is just plugging in the keyboard, mouse, video, etc. into the system. Obviously, you would plug into the one that's the graphic card. On this system, do not plug it into the motherboard. You won't be getting any use out of that. Let me get keyboard and mouse. Keyboard and mouse. Actually, no, I can flip back to this. Keyboard and mouse. Actually, 4, boop, there we go. All right. Just get the keyboard and mouse out. All right. Put that down there. So what am I plugging in? I'm just basically plugging in keyboard, mouse, and the flash drive that I need. I'm not plugging in the Ethernet networking or Ethernet cable or internet, whatever you want to call it. The reason why is because I don't want to create a Microsoft account, and we're going to avoid that. So, because I really hate the Microsoft account thing. Plus our customers don't really like it, so we're not going to do that. It's still an option if they want to use it. It's just something I don't want to have to mess with. I'll plug in the flash drive, just plug in the flash drive that I'm created before. We're going to update the BIOS. We're going to start loading Windows. But let's first make sure the system does boot. Does boot. Does boot good. All right, move this over so I can see you guys chat also. That's like right in my view. All right, so we're ready to flip this on. Everybody cross their fingers if you believe in it. Let's flip it. And push the power. All right, nothing lit on fire, so we're good. All right. Let's see if we got to the BIOS. Oh, it's hot in here. Let's take a look. There we go. Booted. We're in the BIOS. Okay, so let me check chat one more time. My buddy sold me the whole thing for $40. That's cheap. He's your buddy at least. He sold you pretty cheap. My other buddy is giving me an AMD Radeon RX 570. All right. I mean, it's. Oh, wait, did you say you had an NVIDIA 1660 Ti? I'd have to look up the Radeon RX 570 and see if it's any better. I think the NVIDIA one would be better. But all right, so we're in the BIOS. what you want to do before you start anything is upgrade the BIOS, because it's going to be pretty far behind. So what you want to also check is to make sure your CPU temperature is holding steady, which it is. If your CPU temperature is running away, like it's going higher and higher and higher, you don't want to update the BIOS. You want to wait until you get the proper CPU temperature. In other words, go back, repaste your CPU, or if there's a problem there, you want to check that first before you upgrade anything with the BIOS. The BIOS needs to be stable. The system needs to be stable before you update the BIOS. But we're already system stable, so we're all good. Always a good first benchmark, fire bad. Yeah, fire is the worst. I've rarely ever had a fire any recently, but you never know. Let me go to advanced. Let's upgrade the Q flash. So we're going to hit Q flash. I already put the BIOS on the flash drive, so we should be good to go. We're going to update BIOS. We're going to select a new one. We're going to next it. We're going to update the BIOS. Make sure that your system is on a UPS battery before you start this process. It's going to reboot. This is normal. It's going to go through its flash material. While it's doing that, let me check chat again. What is better, an RTX 4060 or an RX 6700 XT? That is a good question. I think it really comes down to use case. If you're, I hate to put it this way, but in my experience, the 4060 is better in the aspect for like games and stuff. Your 6700 XT has got better, I think, better hardware though. I think you're going to have more GPU VRAM on the 6700 XT. I'd have to look it up just to be sure, but yeah, I mean, if you're gaming, I would recommend NVIDIA just because it's more compatible with a lot of stuff. I'm not totally upset about AMD either. AMD's actually gotten a lot better with their drivers, especially with most games. But it seems like most game developers are still testing with NVIDIA, so I'd probably still sway more to NVIDIA. Light gaming and programming? Yeah, 4060 is fine for light gaming and programming, which is, it depends on the games. It really depends on the games. The programming doesn't matter too much. Programming, either one will work. You know what I mean? Unless you're doing programming that's specifically for like game development or something like that, then it's a different story. But if you're programming just for programming, yeah, it doesn't matter too much. The gaming really makes more of the difference. So I would probably say, I'd probably still go 4060 anyway. But if you want to save a few bucks and your titles don't really require NVIDIA, you could save a few bucks and go AMD and be okay with it. I would check the titles of your games. You know, light gaming sounds to me like it'll probably be fine on either one. That would be my version of it. But it depends how light you're talking about. Do you have any titles that you're looking at specifically that you normally like? That I can maybe get a better understanding? Oh, what do we need to turn on? So we need to turn on resizable bar. We're going to also turn on XMP, but not in here. This is it's the easy mode. Let's go to the advanced mode. Let's switch over, and we're going to switch up maybe Fortnite. FH5? FC24. Fortnite, no problem on either one of those. What is FH5? Am I that old? FH5. FH5. Oh, Forza Horizon 5. All right, I know the title. Okay, see, I'm just never heard of it as a abbreviation. Sorry, guys. Thank you. you beat me to it. Okay, so Forza Horizon 5. Yeah, you should still be okay with an AMD for that, honestly. You're at 1080p, I assume? You're not going to probably be doing 4K with light gaming. So if you're at 1080p, it should be fine with either one of those. If you're at 4K, go with NVIDIA. Is pretty much how I'd go with it. Where was I? I keep getting distracted. I'm okay with distractions. Okay, let's do XMP. We're going to turn on XMP. We're going to choose Profile 1. And it is correct. DDR4, 3600. You want to make sure that that's correct. Temperatures are still looking okay. For stock cooling, it's fine. Let me turn myself off of here because I can see what I'm doing. I'm also going to turn off the I/O ports, make sure that this is on still PCI Express 1, onboard controller, yes, resizable or yes. I also want to turn off this App Center download install configuration thing. That gets annoying. Just disable that. That's just going to try to install drivers that you don't need and other software you don't need. Serial port, turn off the serial port. We're not utilizing it. All this is normal. NVMe configuration, we're just going to make sure the drive shows up, which it does, 500 gig. And let's go over to system info. I don't usually set the date and time anymore. I just wait till we get to Windows. Booting, I make sure we're booting to the flash drive, which I have plugged in, which is a Kingston Traveler. It's fine. This one says Windows 10. Oh, that's fine. Windows 10. We're not doing CSM supports. We're not doing fast boot right now. And we're going to save and exit. Thank you, old man. Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry that I didn't get the abbreviations. You know, Forza Horizon is not bad. It's a great game. I was leaning AMD for budget and VRAM and let AMD catch up on the software, but I agree. What little I know NVIDIA, yeah, well, NVIDIA still works with the game. You know, unfortunately, I feel like mostly game developers are still testing on NVIDIA. I think they're also testing on AMD now at this point, but it's not a golden rule yet, you know. It'd be nice. Intel is also available if you can stomach it. Intel also has pretty okay graphic cards at the current time. They're not great. It's not the graphic card it's not the hardware that's the problem. It's more of the drivers for Intel are very, very buggy. So, but if you're willing to deal with that, you know, power to you. Windows comes in for setup. We're gonna just choose the language, time and currency format. Keyboard's fine. Next it. Install. If you have 2 hard drives, right now is the time to unplug the other hard drive. You don't want to have that in there. I'm not going to put a product key in, but if you have a product key, that's where you would enter it. You're going to choose the version of Windows. We're choosing Windows 11 Pro. I'm sorry. We're choosing Windows 11 Pro. Home is also available. Do not choose the N1s. The N1s are for specific other purposes. So just choose Pro, Home, or Education, whichever license you have for. Next. Pro is a little nicer. If you're gaming and stuff, it doesn't really matter too much. But if you're doing like a lot of productivity, Professional is a little bit better. We're going to do a custom install. We're going to choose the hard drive that we have. In this case, there's no partitions, but at this point, you could create a new partition if you want a C and D partition. At this point, we're not going to do that. We're just doing one big, large partition. C, install. And it's going to go through this little progress bar here. Oh, which choice did you, okay, it's a good question. Which choice did you make to avoid doing the Microsoft account? There's a few different things that I have to do to avoid the Microsoft account. Number one, have to have it unplugged from the internet. That's rule number one. Rule number two, when you go to make the flash drive, there's some options that you can load on for the ini file to basically say, oh, I don't want it to, you know, put the Microsoft account in. You could skip past that. You could also disable things like, I disable security and privacy. I reset those settings anyway. There's also a bunch of other options. But you could use a program called Rufus and download the ISO from Microsoft to create that flash drive. And when you go to create that flash drive, it asks you those questions. If we don't have a video up of this yet, I'm going to make the video on showing how to do that so that you can make the flash drive yourself and you can choose the options that you want. It's really, really easy using Rufus. So it'll avoid a lot of those like little quirky problems like Microsoft accounts and stuff like that. You could also still create a Microsoft account and then just remove it too. That's another option, just create a local user account after you get Windows installed. But it is better to avoid it to start with so you don't have to worry about that. I'm going to go back into the BIOS really quick and make sure that we're booting off the new Windows hard drive. Let me jump in there really quick and then switch this to boot. Oh, it already switched it. So I switched it to Windows Boot Manager, so we're all good. So let's go over to Save, Settings, and Exit, and let's boot. Okay, Kush says 3050 6GB may not be amazing for price to performance, but it's efficient B 75-watt slot with a passive cooled option on the card. The level of performance is crazy. Yeah, see that's a thing. Like this machine's not for gaming, so but it is for productivity use, and it is for like Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator, stuff like that. So along those lines, this card's pretty good for, you know, amount of wattage used based off of like, you know, the system being used constantly during the day. Sometimes this machine is also used for like database materials or database or a special program for databasing. So it really doesn't have much to do with keeping the system, let's say, in a high performance mode at all times. So it's good for that. Is it good for like high-end gaming? No, it's not made for high-end gaming. You want something a little bit better, you know. It's okay for like simple games. Nothing, you know, nothing really intensive. Cool, yeah, I always do those no internet clean installs in the past. Yeah, you definitely want the most cleanest install you can get, you know, because the more clean the install, the more performance you're going to get out of the system. I just wish that Microsoft wouldn't put all this crap in the system. I wish they wouldn't load all the junk. You know, they wouldn't load up the Microsoft account and force you to go do all that stuff. It would be a lot better. All right, this is the out-of-box experience. This is the thing that's basically a little customized for us with the ini file. Or just select your country. You say yes, United States is great. In this case, yes, US for the keyboard. If you're in a different place, of course, you would choose that. Add a second keyboard. I don't know anybody that does this. Who does anybody run with a second keyboard? I don't run with a second keyboard. I'm going to skip that. That's weird. I'm going to say I don't have internet. This is going to bypass the Microsoft account, so we're just going to say that. We're going to continue with limited setup. And now it's going to ask me for a regular username. I'm just going to put B1 for now. Next. Password. I recommend you put a password in. We're not going to do that for now, just to keep it simple. But you should. I'll date myself. I may or may not have had a Windows 7 USB with the leaked dev copy that I need a Windows key. All right, I'm not going to say anything. Bought Windows plenty of times, just like USB, cause use a flash drive. Yeah, ISO install is the best way to go. Oh, really? Okay, Kush, that's cool. You run a second keyboard because I often speak to my family and friends in Greece. Okay, all right. Okay, so that's a really good reason to use a second keyboard. I didn't even think of that. I just thought it was just kind of like a question that they just asked that, you know, it's kind of annoying, but no, I didn't notice that you would have a second keyboard for it. Well, I guess the second keyboard has the second language on it, right? Probably those bilingual people. That's good, though. All right. Okay, we're up. Yay. All right. So you'll notice that the icons are all missing here. That's normal because I'm not connected to the internet yet. Those will load in all the bloatware and the junk. But right now we're not connected to anything, so it's going to stay that way for now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do the drivers first. So I have the drivers on this flash drive also. I just have a B1 folder here. Copy that. Put it to the C drive just so it's a little faster to load, because it's compressed on there. You'll notice the date and time are wrong. That's okay. We'll fix that shortly. I like to get the drivers done first. Let's go to drivers. We're just going to run through them one at a time and extract them. This smart screen filter cannot be contacted. That's normal. I don't have any internet connected right now, so therefore it's not going to be able to contact Smart Screen. That's okay. Just continue on. This drive is clean. I always virus scan everything before we put it on for a new machine too, just in case anything was downloaded was incorrect. I don't know Dvorak? Yeah, Melissa, that's just to let you know, yeah, that is one way to bypass the account, but you also need to, the new version that got loaded for the ISO, you have to also configure like one of the, you got to configure one of the ini files to make that work. They made it a little more complicated. All right, that's because I can't connect to the internet there. Let me extract all the rest of the other drivers. The Intel driver requires internet for it to work. So let's get the Realtek driver going. Just going to basically go through each driver set same way, run them all, install them all. The drivers that I pick are the ones that basically don't have any extra fluff to them. There's no like bloatware, there's nothing else that's extra. It's literally just the driver itself, just to keep it very minimal and simple. And motherboard manufacturers, they do offer them on their site, so that's usually most of the drivers. Graphic card drivers are a little more bloated nowadays, but that's okay, that's good, because it's good for fixing other stuff. Blinking of the screen right now, that's normal, just kind of ride with it. It's going to act a little funny until all the drivers are in. Oh. What the hell? There we go. Okay. Extract. Did I do consumer? Oh, no, it's another consumer. Some driver manufacturers like Asus, if you have an Asus motherboard especially, you may want to be very careful like installing the drivers. They're usually a little harder to install. You may want to use their utility if you have a hard time. That's the only complaint I've ever had for drivers. Some of the drivers are a little bit more difficult to install than others. These are pretty easy. From Gigabyte's pretty simple. They're all highly compressed, extractable. Let that go through. By the way, you should also probably reset and reboot once or twice during this process. I kind of just know it'll go and it'll work. Wow, it's a lot here. Okay. Okay. Serial I/O. Oh, Kush, thanks, man. I appreciate it. By the way, if anybody doesn't understand something that I'm going through, feel free to ask. I'll try to slow down a little. I kind of go fast sometimes. I'm from New York, so we all speak fast. We all move fast. It's just the way it is. Oh, okay, it doesn't need this one. Okay. This program installed correctly. Yay. Okay. Just waiting on the last one. Then we're going to do a reboot, and then we're going to connect the internet and watch all this stuff go to hell with loading all this other junk it's going to do. It's going to be funny. So, okay, we're done with that. We're going to do a quick reboot. I'm going to connect the internet at this point. Get the Ethernet cable here. There we go. Okay, plug that in. I'm going to disconnect the flash drive since we don't need it at this point for right now. Thanks for dropping a sub. YouTube randomly dropped this live on my recommended page. That's good. At least I'm getting shown to people. I was kind of getting worried for a while. Then again, I also didn't do a lot of live streams. We kind of took a break for a little while. All right, so after I plugged it in the Ethernet, you'll see all of this junk kind of load in. You'll just notice all these stupid programs. And some of them you may not need, some of them you may need. If you go to apps and installs, you'll see a lot of stuff, including like Xbox and all this. Now this is a business machine, so we're not going to need any of this. And instead of you could kind of like manually uninstall most of this stuff if you want to by going through here and doing that. But we wrote a script to make this a little easier. So we're going to do that. We're going to open up Windows PowerShell. We're going to run as administrator. We're going to go to the script that I downloaded to this machine. Type out the directions so I can copy and paste the commands. We created this script to make it a little easier. This script is available, by the way, on our other video and on our website. So you can always remove all your bloatware if you want to. I'd recommend you also look through the script before you run it, because if you use any of those applications, you may want to re-enable them. It's pretty quick though, and you notice that everything's done and it disables the telemetry. And if you go to installed apps, you'll notice there's a lot less here. There's no Xbox. There's nothing that's really, this OneDrive never gets rid of that. But it gets rid of all the rest of the junk. Like a lot of the Office stuff that is just like temporary stuff and stuff like that. So that's removed. But the only thing it doesn't get rid of are these stupid icons here, like Spotify never seems to go away. I gotta rewrite that script to make it a little bit more efficient. LinkedIn is also another one that's new. I'll install the new Outlook. That's horrible. Yeah, I'm not sure I want to find the Windows install like this is really great for a system meant to be running professional workloads, focused on reliability, etc. That script, the only thing that script really does is it basically does the same thing as if I went through here and I just manually hit uninstall, or took anything out. So it's not going to hurt the system. It's just, you can always reinstall those programs if you really want to. I just wish Microsoft didn't put this in as default and just gave you an option to install those programs. It'd be better for everybody. So, oh, I didn't do date and time. Shoot, date and time. Let's change that really quick. That's wrong. It always does Pacific. Eastern. That's not right. No, it's 4:30. It's almost 4:30. There we go. All right, so that's done. Date and time are correct. I'm going to load up. Let me see what this customer wanted. This is, yeah, they wanted Chrome. So let's start with Chrome. Let's get that in there. We'll use Edge to download Chrome, which is all it's good for. Or Firefox. I prefer Firefox, but to each your own. Let that run. And while that's going, I'm also going to go into settings. I'm going to start doing the Windows updates because that's going to take a while to run. In the backgrounds. I'm also going to go to Control Panel and update the power management. So I'm going to go for power options. We're going to bring this to high performance so it runs a little quicker. I'm going to turn off the hard disk, so we're going to turn it to none so it doesn't turn off the hard disk. That's good for mechanical drives, but we don't have a mechanical drive. So we're just going to leave it off. That option's not needed. It's not going to save much power anyway. If you're on a laptop, it might save you some power. But it's not a laptop. Let's do 25 minutes for the display after. Apply, OK. Close. Don't need to sign in right now. Set as default, yes. Set defaults. This is also defaults. I don't know why this doesn't set everything to default. If I set Chrome, I want Chrome. So annoying. All right. Let's also do, let's close that out for a sec. Let's go check the Windows updates. It should be running in the background. Most Chromium browsers are the same. Yeah, most Chromium browsers are the same. Edge has gotten better. I gotta say it's gotten better, but there are some little quirky things with Edge that for businesses, it has some issues with some sites. So Chrome seems to be like the de facto of like just in the business world for working over here in the United States. I'm not sure most people are the other way, but I think Edge is okay. It's not bad. It's just that it does kind of the same thing like what Chrome does, which consumes a lot of RAM. Especially most tabs are like just really crazy. But again, not totally upset about Edge. It's just, yeah, there's better, you know. But again, that's me talking. I like Firefox. It's really a personal choice, I feel like, at this point. I don't think it's really like one better over the other. I think most sites are pretty much programmed for both anyway. So, and yeah, they both do use Chromium. You're right. At this point. Hey, but anything beats Safari, so we're all good. And if there's any Apple lovers out there that like Safari, I don't know what to tell you, but just switch. Just don't bother with that. You're missing out on half the world. I'm going to pin that for right now. Let's pin this one for them. Hit the taskbar. All right, this is installing. We removed the bloatware. We did drivers. Let's just check to make sure device manager is all good to go, which it is. Everything is installed properly. Graphic card. I'm missing the graphic card. Graphic card. This is an NVIDIA. We're going to load NVIDIA graphic card. NVIDIA. Some of my coworkers with Macs got really confused when I told them I willingly installed Edge on my MacBook. Why would they be confused? It's still better than Safari. I still take Edge over Safari any day. Safari's horrible. Safari doesn't work right at all. Like, I don't feel like nothing is coded correctly for Safari at all. What do we got? 30 series? What did I say this was? 3050. 30. 3050. 11. Yeah, game ready driver's fine. Download. By the way, if you want, you can load GeForce Experience. The problem with GeForce Experience, it requires a login. So that's why I'm not doing it right now. But usually we do load the GeForce Experience for the customer, and then we use their login to put that through. Safari Mac is hard experience, but not bad on mobile. I don't have an iPhone, so I can't really contest to that. I did use Safari on an iPad. It's not bad. It's not great either. But then again, I don't really use the iPad for very much anything. You know, I'm not a very mobile friendly person. So, but yeah, if it's built towards mobile, I guess, you know, I'm going to take your opinion on it. Yeah, I heard that, Kush. The new GeForce, it's not GeForce though. They call it something else. But yeah, the new one's not going to require a login. I don't know if it's out of beta yet. It's a good question. I probably should look at that. Let's just do this one. Express for now. Let's see. What is it called? No, they don't have it here. Let's see if it's somewhere. System tools, probably. NVIDIA app. Really? Oh, that's really boring. All right, NVIDIA app. Nice. Oh, it's in beta, yeah. We're not going to load the beta, but this is supposed to be a lot better I heard that the drivers on here are just like even the layout and design. It's more updated. It's much better than what used to be. It's much better than GeForce. I tried it on a different system, but I don't want to put this on production just not yet because it's still in beta. You know, once it comes out of beta, though, yeah, this will definitely be loaded. No, it's still doing this thing in the background. During the installation, you'll also get a graphic flipper, which it just did now. It just blacked out. That's normal. It flickers the screen. Let it go. And then install. It's all done. Adrenaline is okay. I've only had a few bad revisions of Adrenaline, but I was also, that was during, you know, AMD's figuring out of like getting the drivers fully straightened out. So, you know, it's a stepping stone sometimes. You just got to, you know, but it is, I mean, Adrenaline's got a lot of cool features, you know, so I'm not totally upset about it. I think it's a really good product. It's a good way to distribute the graphic card driver. There's also options for it to automatically update and stuff, which is cool. You know, because a lot of our customers don't run the updates. They forget to, or, you know, it's our job to run the updates depending upon the customer. So, but yeah, it's not bad though. I think I've heard good stuff about the NVIDIA app. We're waiting for it to come out of beta for it to be, you know, on production side. I did load it on one of our test systems. It is a lot nicer than the GeForce was. So a lot of extra features that are just easy to load right from the NVIDIA app. So if you use a lot of those extra features, you don't have to go hunting them down. It's kind of all in one spot, which makes it really nice. Oh, we didn't do this. Why isn't it uninstalling these? Install. There we go. Go. Sometimes you got to give Windows a little kick to kind of like get it to install all the drivers and not all the drivers. I'm sorry, all the software updates. I don't know why it's installing the NVIDIA display. I already just did that. I hate this when it does that. It's probably going to replace my driver with a horrible driver. I also need that. Intel system driver, 24 hours. I don't know what that is. I'm going to avoid that for right now. Yeah, this install process takes a long time. Let's see. Yeah, I don't run NVIDIA, so I wouldn't know, but okay, I already read that. Also, AMD has optional driver telemetry, unlike NVIDIA's. Yes, that is a positive. They do give you the checkbox during the installation. The only bad point about the AMD driver is that it kind of like pushes that telemetry stuff. It wants you to say agree to it. It says it twice. It says it at the beginning of the install, and then it forgets and tries to automatically check it off for the end of the install. But, you know, it's fine. But there is at least an option. You can remove the telemetry, where NVIDIA, yes, you cannot remove the telemetry. You need to have that running. Unless you just download and install the driver by itself without the app, then you can avoid the telemetry a little bit. But they still will, I still think that they collect crash data. So if you crash during whatever you're doing, it'll probably grab that crash data. I don't know what else they're collecting, honestly. It's probably a good idea to probably read the terms of service. Yeah, AMD does need the data. I mean, honestly, it's better to leave it checked off and send that crash report or some sort of information just in case. Because if something crashes, it's only going to make their product better by knowing what's crashed and what's coming out of it. The only thing that's negative about that is that you don't know what they're actually taking, and that's a little bit disturbing. So for some people, they may not like that. And at least offering that option, you know, it gives you a little bit of peace of mind, and, you know, allows you to have that little bit of feeling that it's better. You know, it's just one of those things, like the checkbox is there, makes you feel comfortable. Whether they're still taking data, you still really don't know. I mean, unless you're like monitoring all the packets that are coming out of your computer at all times. I could imagine they're probably taking some data no matter what, maybe bug data or crashing data. I was told by an AMD driver engineer that the drivers aren't buggy. It's just that they're more strict about graphical errors compared to NVIDIA drivers. I mean, if he's really an AMD, or he or she's an AMD driver engineer, I'm going to probably take their word over mine. I don't know how they write their drivers, so I'm going to say that's pretty cool, though. I mean, I would be more, you know, as a software engineer a little bit, you know, I do IT and I do a lot of software engineering as well, but I don't write drivers. I do write mostly other software and more database stuff. But thinking more like a person that would write a driver, I would probably care more about the errors. I would probably want to get rid of them and squash the bugs as much as possible. You know, not just, you know, hope that it works and ship it, you know. Make sure that at least we're getting rid of those bugs and going, you know, positive flow, you know. Wow, this install's taking a while. Now, let me check the RAM also. I wanted to make sure that we're at the proper speed. Memory. Yeah, that's what I figured. It says 3200 for some strange reason. I put it at 3600. All right, when I run the memory test later, I'll double check why that's happening. It's not pushing the 36. Yet I set the XMP profile at 36. A little weird. I've had this glitch happen once or twice. Sometimes I have to force it in the BIOS. The side effects. So the side effect to being so strict is that game engines can sometimes bug out when errors are kind of squashed and completely crash. Ooh. Yeah, I mean, well, you know, and that's part of game testing and game design as well. You know, that has to go hand in hand with the hardware that you're running it on. So, yeah, I mean, you're also dealing with game developers. See, the problem with game developers, it really depends also on the game developer, how they want to push their product out. If they push their product out really, really fast, and they have a lot of bugs and they have a lot of that stuff, it gets pointed at the driver first instead of, you know, maybe it might be a problem with the game engine itself. So, yeah, it's kind of a push-pull kind of situation. You know, they both rely on each other very heavily. And the more hardware they support, the more testing they're going to have to support, of course, too. So it is just part of the process. CPU, I'm getting there. I don't know what else we have to really change. We shouldn't have to change anything else. I think we're pretty much done. We're just waiting on these last few patches. And yeah, we're okay on the drive space. I have to run a cleanup usually at the end. The thing is, engine devs rarely bother to fix AMD issues because it's only 0.1% who use AMD cards most of the time. It's only AMD optimized or console to PC ports that get AMD fixes. I'm gonna take your word for it. I'm pretty sure it's probably true because 0.1% does sound about right. I mean, most people aren't really using it. Again, you even see me. I'm telling you to use an NVIDIA graphic card instead of an AMD one for games because I just know that right now it's working more smoothly than the AMD one. But you're right. I mean, a PC port or something from a console to a PC port definitely has pushed AMD fixes more, because they realize that, okay, if I have to write this for the console and it's running off of AMD hardware, we can at least now test on something that is at a less expense to the game developer to test on it, versus just having to start fresh and realize that it has to only go one way. So I think that is AMD's smart aspect of getting their chipsets into the consoles, even if at a loss, still helps their overall product line, because they can sell more AMD graphic cards at the PC level, because at least this way they know that their games could at least run one or the other and run smoothly. So the more that they push this way, the better it's going to be for competition and getting those, getting the AMD cards into more systems. But then again, I mean, AMD is still like leap years ahead of, Intel as a good example. Intel just got into the market with graphics, and I'm talking about gaming graphics. I mean, they've been in the market for graphics for a very long time. It's just their drivers are now starting to run games because they're now having more hardware that, supports it. It's still leaps and bounds compared to Intel. So I'd say like AMD is definitely going the right direction. But, if I had a choice between cards, out of all three of those, if I'm gaming a lot, I'd still probably do NVIDIA, just because I know it's going to be less buggy. But you pay that price, because NVIDIA is going to be a little more expensive, and AMD is going to be a little bit cheaper and still offer you better hardware, I think, because you're going to get more VRAM, you're going to get more processing power out of it, But I'm only a fanboy to whatever is needed. So, that's why you see me like swaying back and forth between them, because it's fine. Either one is still pretty good. You're welcome. All right, we're almost done here. Oh, I don't even know why we're waiting on the display driver to do that. So let me just restart this. All right, during the restart, it's going to obviously do a percent counter. This is normal. It's going to say updates are underway. This is fine. Yeah, Kush, you're exactly right. You bring up exactly the right point there. You're talking about a Sony PC title. I'll read what you have. In a handful of Sony PC titles, AMD chips, especially some RDNA 2 cards, can outperform NVIDIA's by a bit. The RX 6700 10G, a card, 10 gigabyte, I guess, a card that is fast as a 4060 outperforms a 3070 in Last of Us. It's exactly that. Yeah, I mean, again, it comes down to title and the game developers working with the hardware developers to make sure that software and hardware is 100%. And when you get a really good working pair like that, you could just see that the hardware, you don't need to have the most expensive piece of hardware for it to work. You could go with something that's less expensive but works just as good or better, because of the game developer making it, work better on that specific piece of hardware. But this is not just for games either. If you guys are in productivity, it's the same way. Like Adobe or Adobe or any of these other, or even let's say AutoCAD or any of these other professional software suites, DaVinci Resolve, other things like that, all require a specific look at the hardware as well as the software, making sure the software is matching up to the hardware that's currently out and what's coming down the pipe. All right, we are rebooted, thank God. Let it go. All right, it's got only the display driver, which I don't want. I don't know why it keeps doing that. So we'll probably have to install the other app to make that go away. Intel system 2406.5.5. Not sure what this is. Do we have all the drivers in? Or it's an update? No, we have all the drivers in. So I'm going to leave that for now. Maybe recheck that later if I want to actually put that driver in. Or is it going to mess something up by putting that in? So we might avoid that. Someone bugged out on the restarts because it looks like their computer is restarting. Yeah, if you have two screens, that could happen. All right, guys, this build is complete at this point. We're going to do a memory check, which is the last thing, but I'm not going to do that on stream because that literally takes all night to run. It takes like a long amount of time to make sure that all the memory runs. We do have another video on testing memory, so if you are interested in that, if you want to do a full test rundown of like everything that we do, we also will have a playlist eventually of how to go from start to finish on all this. So, yeah. Let's just flip this over here for a second. Hold on a second. Sorry, guys. My camera has shut off. The other one, of course. There we go. Hopefully that's coming back on. Come on. There we go. Okay. So my camera just decided to turn off. I got to fix that setting. Yeah, so guys, this is the end of this stream. We have another stream coming up tomorrow. That's another live build. It's very similar to this system. So if you guys want to come watch that, it is May the 4th, so we will be celebrating Star Wars Day. So we recommend that you come and watch that. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Hopefully, we will get the Discord running also, which I will remember to do after this stream, and I'll see if I can try to figure out that and get it all set up. See you guys soon.